Shabbos. When the Talmud introduces us to the story of this period of time, it tells us, it begins with Kamsa bar Kamsa Charva Yerushalayim. You want to know why Jerusalem was destroyed? Because of a story a mix-up between Kamsa and bar Kamsa. The story in short, a fellow invites a friend of his called Kamsa to a party. The attendant who was meant to invite Kamsa, made a mistake and invited bar Kamsa instead. Bar Kamsa was this guy's sworn enemy. He sees him at the party, he tells him, please leave. The fellow says, I'll pay for my meal. Don't kick me out. It's embarrassing. He says, no, I want you to leave. He says, listen, I'll pay for half of the party. He says, no. He says, I'll pay for the entire party. He says, no. He takes him and throws him out. The guy gets so angry. There were sages there. There were rabbis. They said nothing. He went and he told the Roman emperor, the Jews have gone against you. The Roman emperor proved that by sending an offering that this Bar Kamsa made a wound in, and he wouldn't. And the Jews wouldn't bring it as an offering in the temple. And because of that, when the emperor heard about it, he sent his legions to destroy the temple. The question is, first of all, what Jew wouldn't accept someone to pay for your entire wedding? It's very expensive, and your enemy wants to pay for it? Great, no problem. Second of all, how indeed were the rabbis sitting there and said nothing? Says the Chassam Sofer, we must say that this fellow Bar Kamsa was indeed a lowlife, a very terrible person. There are people that sages wouldn't sit with at a meal. They would say, it's unbecoming. When this guy who invited Kamsa, which turned out to be Bar Kamsa, saw this fellow there, he felt his entire party will be ruined. The sages will get up and leave. They wouldn't want to sit with this guy. He was a real lowlife. We could see that. It was by what he did afterwards. And that's why taking the money wouldn't do anything. The whole party is destroyed if this guy is there. So there's no option. Says some Sefer. But nevertheless, the Talmud tells us this is the cause of destruction of the temple, which tells us that it's not just discord between Jews who are kind of the same or, a little less, a little more. We're talking about a fellow who indeed was a very bad individual. And nevertheless, you have to be able to have a simcha. You should be able to sit with another yid at a simcha. You should be able to have him there. And if we reach a level that we cannot, even if we disagree, and even if the person is so bad, done such terrible things, that you cannot be in a simcha together with him, then that's the cause of destruction of Beis HaMikdash. There was a fellow who grew up in Chabad yeshiva system, and unfortunately he went off the path that the Rebbe established. And one day he came to visit Melbourne. And the rabbi in Melbourne, Rabbi Yitzchak David Groner, the Rebbe Shliach there, was given advice, was told by the Rebbe's secretary, Rebbe Chadakov, that he's not to invite him to the institutions in Melbourne, the schools and the shuls and so on. Anyway, so he didn't. When his tour came to an end, Rabbi Groner gets a call from Rabbi Chadakov. Rabbi Chadakov says, "No, how was?" Says, "I did what I was told. I didn't see him. I didn't invite him." So Rabbi Chadakov said to him, "What? You grew up together in yeshiva. I told you not to invite him to the institutions, but to have him over at your home for a cup of tea. That you should have done." What he's saying is, even if we totally disagree with him, even if we feel that his perspective is absolutely wrong, but that should not affect your personal bond and connection to him. We would do well in today's environment in Israel, really around the world, to listen to this idea, to take this on. With the famous story of the convert who came to Shammai and then to Hillel. He came to Shammai and says, "Teach me the entire Torah on one foot. Then I'll become Jewish." And Shammai sent him, "Get lost." So he came to Hillel. And he said to Hillel, "Teach me the entire Torah whilst I'm standing on one foot." And Hillel says, "What you do not like done to yourself, do not do unto others. The rest is commentary." That's the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. One of the questions is, why does Hillel say in the negative? Why doesn't he say it in the positive? What you want done to yourself, do unto others. Why does he say, what you don't want done to yourself, do not do unto others? So the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rebbe, explains this as follows. What do you not like done to yourself? You know what you don't like done to yourself? You don't like to be judged by your weaker moments. You don't like to be judged by your failures. That's what you don't like. There's King Solomon says, "Al kol pshoim tchasav," all sins love hide those sins. When you do something wrong, and when you're disappointed in yourself, You might be disappointed for a while. You might hate yourself for a short while. But afterwards, you kind of justify yourself, and then you're indignant when other people judge you by your weakest moments. I'm more than that. I'm greater than that. That doesn't define me. And the same thing is with your child. How many people come to me, my kid's gotten into trouble. He's a good kid. He's a good kid. But this trouble, that trouble. Yeah? Do we see that in the President of the United States? He loves his son. I'm not getting involved in the politics of it. He loves his son. Everyone understands. A father loves his son, regardless of his failures. Regardless of the son's failures, it's okay for a father to love their child. Why? Because we don't see them by their failures. We see them by their essence. That's the way it is with other people. This is what we should give the benefit of the doubt to everyone else. You hate to be defined by your weaker moments, your failures? Don't do it to someone else. Don't judge other people by their failures. Wouldn't we do well now in this situation in Israel, where there's absolute disagreement about policies and positions that are very different, that people feel very strongly about. But nevertheless, that should not bring hatred. We can disagree vehemently, but not become disagreeable. We could still love each other as we disagree with each other. There was a clip that was going around that I thought was absolutely beautiful. A fellow was in front of a shop. He sees this guy. Says, "Can I ask you a question?" "Yeah." "Are you for the judicial reform or against?" The guy says, "I am against." He says, "I am for. But could we have a hug?" And the guy gives him a hug, and then he gives him a gift. The next guy comes along and says, "Are you for or against?" The guy says, I'm for." He says, "I'm against. Could we have a hug?" And he gives him a hug, and he gives him a gift. He brings out in this point that you could be for, you could be against. I'll tell you exact opposite of what you are, and I want to show that we can hug each other and love each other regardless. That is the message of the day. That's what we have to inculcate within us. We are not our strongest opinions. We are not even our behaviors. We are a soul that is one between ourselves and other Jews as well. We are all one. And that's when we inculcate that, regardless of how much I disagree with you, regardless of the failures you might have, I will still have you. I'll still have a cup of tea with you. I will still give you a hug. I still love you. And if we bring that in, we will have the third Beis Hamikdash built speedily in our time. Good Shabbos.